Okay, so salute to everyone out there. Hopefully your week is going well. Kanye West is back in the news. Obviously, he has an album getting ready to come out and or new music getting ready to come out. Now, the conservatives are giving him a huge pat on the back and huge airtime on their conservative news networks because he's a Trump supporter and he came out and spoke negative about Barack Hussein Obama. However, what he said about Barack Hussein Obama is 1000% accurate. He said that Obama was in office for 8 years and nothing has changed in Chicago. That is a true statement, whether you like him or not. Okay? But what I find interesting is that conservatives are known bashers of hip-hop. Conservatives do not like hip-hop. They feel as though hip-hop has destroyed the youth. However, if you are a hip-hop artist and you support the conservative movement, all your sins will be washed away. If you pay attention, conservatives have absolutely nothing negative to say about Kanye West or hip-hop as of right now. You see the hypocrisy? Without any further ado, let's get into it.
The Trump administration wants to make changes to the country's housing assistance program. On Wednesday, the Department of Housing and Urban Development announced its Making Affordable Housing Work Act. The department says the goal is simplifying the housing subsidy process. Currently, most people receiving housing assistance put 30% of their adjusted income toward rent, with the minimum rent payment being about $50 per month. People report their income every year and their payments are recalculated. HUD wants to increase that income percentage to 35%. That would also boost the minimum rent payment to about $150 per month, but people would only resubmit their income every 3 years. The proposal also opens the door for HUD to create new work requirements. None of these changes would affect assistance for the elderly or people with disabilities. This proposal is similar to other changes to public assistance programs under the Trump administration. Earlier in April, President Trump signed an executive order strengthening work requirements for some welfare programs.
America is becoming a very expensive place to live. Many people would argue it is expensive. Depending on where you live, I will agree with you. Now, Trump wants to cut spending and welfare. He wants to cut off food stamps and replace food stamps with food boxes. Now, he said it will only affect a certain percentage of people, but we all know how America is. They will put a small percentage on food boxes, and then 2-3 years down the road, everyone that is accepting welfare will be on food boxes. This is the Trump administration way of cutting spending. Now, when you look at HUD, HUD is a whole nother dynamic because people need a place to stay. Yes, people need food to eat. However, a roof over your head is just as important as 3 meals a day. Now, once rent go up, you are going to see more poverty. If you are in Southern California, then you are familiar with Skid Row. Skid Row has more homeless people than anywhere in America. As a matter of fact, Los Angeles has more homeless people than anywhere in America. Ben Carson came to California and he visited Skid Row. I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. And he said he has never seen anything like it in America. Something has to be done. But if you are raising the rent, what are you going to get done? Now, if you pay $50 a month on rent, and if this proposal, this new HUD proposal by the Trump administration get voted through, then if you are on disability and you don't make enough, and your rent was $50 before the proposal, it will jump to $150, not 155, excuse me, $150. So that's a huge jump. That extra $100 could be used for gas, insurance, transportation, food, emergency supplies, or just sitting in your bank account. Now you have to take that extra $100 and put it towards rent. Now this is going to mess up a lot of people's livelihoods who can't afford it. Okay, who can't afford it is going to mess up a lot. Now if you pay $100 a month and it's 12 months in a year, that's $1,200. So now yearly you'll be out of $1,200 versus saving $1,200. Talking about checks and balances. And what people have to understand, and when I mean people, I mean American citizens, have to understand that America is going through a transition right now. And it's going to be very, very tough. Meaning that there is going to be a lot of cuts in spending. They feel as though that the government dish out way too much money in entitlement programs. Now, when you think about entitlement programs, the first thing that comes to your mind is people who don't want to work, because news stations has butchered that term. But entitlement programs aren't people who don't want to work. Entitlement programs are, well, yeah, some cases people don't want to work, but other cases people are on disability. They can't work. They don't make enough. However, you have a segment of people out there who take advantage of the system. And I've done videos about this before. Case in point, Trump food boxes. People had a problem with that video because I was not sympathetic. And the reason why I was not sympathetic is because you have a lot of people that are using benefits and they don't really need them. You have people deliberately having multiple children and getting on welfare. People don't want to work and getting on welfare. I'm sure you all heard the term welfare queen. And so people like that has messed it up for you. Not saying that people like that is the reason why they're cutting spending. No, people like that is the reason why other Americans don't have sympathy for the people who actually need the help. We're like, listen, I'm sick and tired of going inside a grocery store and seeing people with an EBT card eating lobster. Now, I'm not a lobster eater, okay? To me, that is the cockroach of the sea. However, lobster is a delicacy to a lot of people who don't eat it. And it is expensive, depending on the size and the weight. So this isn't cheap food. And people are eating great off a taxpayer's dime. It's sad. It's a shame. That needs to stop. And now you have veterans that don't make enough. You have a lot of homeless veterans in Los Angeles. And it's sad that you have homeless veterans. If you are a veteran, you fought for this country, there is absolutely no reason why you are homeless. This country should be giving you free room and board. And you always have these candidates who claim they care about the veterans. But term after term, president after president, veterans are left on the back burner. They're the last to get taken care of. So we do know that veterans do need help, but oftentimes, more than not, they don't get it. I've talked to homeless veterans. You have older people who work 20, 25, 30 years, retired, but they can't afford to pay rent and pay for food, so they need help. That's understandable. However, disability and the elderly would not be tampered with, would not be messed with, and that's a good thing. I do believe that is a good thing. How long will that last? I don't know, because this country is going in a huge transition. You have a lot of countries that is dropping the American dollar also. So the American dollar isn't worth what it was last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. America has more money going out than they do coming in. That wasn't the case 20 years ago. So this country is going into a huge transition. I've heard people say, well, why don't they cut military spending? They're not going to cut military spending. They're going to increase it. Even when they say they're going to cut it, they're not going to cut it. They have to pay for ammunition. They have to pay for bombs. They have to pay for fuel. They have to pay for transportation. They have to pay for soldiers. Soldiers get a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month. They have to pay for food. They have to also pay for countries they bomb. They just jacked up. Case in point, Afghanistan, Iraq. So if you think they're going to cut spending with the military, you're out of your mind. They're going to increase it. Especially since China military is rising. Iran is a major threat. And Russia. So now America is cutting spending big time. And I do believe the HUD proposal will pass. And once that passes, you are going to see a change in your everyday life. And when I say your everyday life, if you are on HUD, if you are getting help on housing, you are going to see a huge change. These undocumented immigrants, they're getting ready to get kicked off of HUD. And what you guys have to understand is these undocumented immigrants have jacked it up for Americans. Especially in California, the majority of the people on Section 8 are undocumented immigrants. HUD, same thing. A lot of blacks are going to be cut off of it. A lot of whites. That would not discriminate. Well, I don't want to say that just yet. Don't hold me to that one. But things are going to change in America, and you will notice it. You will see the way people act, the way people behave, the way people are living. If you think there is a homeless problem now, wait until that HUD proposal go through. This is serious business. This is serious business. I see homeless single mothers all the time in Southern California. All the time. Homeless veterans. Homeless couples. Homeless elderly. A lot of these people are going to die on the streets. Die living on the streets. And if they're cutting HUD, how are they going to help the homeless? It seems like no one cares about the homeless. And now you're going to have to, submit a work paper. You have to work so many hours to get so much money. You're not going to be able to have children and just lay up on the government's dole, on taxpayers' dole anymore. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. I do believe that felons should get some type of help. Why? Because when they get out of jail, they typically can't find a job and have nowhere to go. Okay? People had a problem when I said that. They said, well, you want government to cut spending for people out of jail and help the people that's in jail. No, not exactly, because the people that's out of jail have a chance to change their life, to turn their life around the very next day, the same day, a month later, 6 months later. So if you're just sitting around and collecting welfare, that's your problem. However, the person that is getting out of the penitentiary and they're looking to be employed, they're looking to start all over, they should get another chance. But I'm not the president, so it doesn't matter. People will hear your opinion and just get pissed, like, oh my God, like that's not the point. That is not the point. The point is the people who are in power are going to make the decisions. The people who are in power make the rules. That's just how it goes. And I personally believe that once this proposal goes through, a lot of these immigrant families, they live 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to a house. That's why when you go into the inner cities, there's no parking on the streets. I've said this many a times when I go visit my cousins, my family, my friends in the inner city. There's no parking because it's like 6 people, 7 people, 8 people live in one house and they all have cars. If you live in the inner city, you better have a driveway. You better have a parking lot. You better have a gate. You better have a garage. So, if that's going on now, what do you think will happen once the HUD cuts go in? And then they're building all of these apartments everywhere. When you go to downtown LA, there's a lot of apartments being built. And majority of these apartments are vacant. And you ask yourself, why are they building all these apartments and they're still vacant? They built these apartments 2 years ago and they still haven't filled them up. However, there's hundreds of thousands of homeless people sleeping outside of them. People say, well, this is going to hurt Trump. I don't think it's going to hurt Trump. I don't think him cutting HUD is going to hurt Trump. And this is why. This is what I believe why. First, it has to be a candidate that can beat him. And when you look on the Democrat side, who do they have? Bernie Sanders. I don't think he can take on Trump. That's my opinion. You look at Kamala Harris. I don't think she can take on Trump either. All he has to do is reference California and how in a mess it is, and that'll pretty much get rid of her. Hillary should still be tough. However, she has so much dirt under her fingernails. The only people who are going to vote for her is immigrants. Immigrants. So people may be pissed at Trump for cutting HUD. However, they're pissed at the Democrats for allowing open borders and having undocumented immigrants vote for them. So you weigh your options. I mean, unless Trump does something terrible by the time he needs to run again. Unless he does something very, very terrible. The economy, the president doesn't fix the economy. Okay? He can do tax cuts. He can give bonuses. But that's not his job. He does take credit for it. But that's not his job. And so when you look at who will run against him in the next election, they really don't have anyone who's going to be able to take down Trump unless Trump do something very, very wrong. You keep hearing Kamala Harris, that's a long shot. Bernie Sanders have a better shot than her. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm out. Peace.